Greetings, candidates, and welcome back. Today, I'm going to answer question number 4, Advanced Auditing and Assurance. The sitting is April 2022. Question 4 reads, Jama Manufacturing Limited is planning to install an automated sales accounting system. The company's management has requested for your advice on certain matters relating to the proposed sales accounting system. Required, Part A, Roman 1, describe the controls that should be incorporated in the new system before Roman 1. It issues an order confirmation to a customer, 3 marks, Roman 2. Raises a dispatch note and authorizes dispatch of goods to the customer, 3 marks. Now, candidates, as you prepare for exams, it's important for you to be accustomed to the various systems, like the purchasing system, the sales system, the system around inventories, the system or recording system in relation to expenses, expenditure, and so on. That will help you answer such a question. Candidates were to describe the controls that should be incorporated in the new system before it issues an order confirmation to a customer. If you do not know the various stages in the sales system, it may not be easy for you to answer such a question. So students who had knowledge in relation to the sales system, it's very easy to answer a question like this one. Part A, describe the controls that should be incorporated in the new system before it, Roman 1, issues an order confirmation to a customer. We are answering Advanced Auditing and Assurance, Auditing and Assurance, Advanced Auditing, Auditing and Assurance, the April 2022 sitting, question 4. A, describe controls to be incorporated. Describe controls to be incorporated in the new system before it, Roman 1, issues an order confirmation to a customer. All right. The first control, candidates, is to check if the customer has an account. The system should be able to check if the customer has an account. The second point is to ensure that the customer credit limit has not been exceeded. The system should be able to detect the credit limit of customers, because there are some customers who have limits of amount that they should be supplied goods on credit. So the system should be able to check customer credit limit, whether it has been exceeded or not. It should be able to detect and give a notice or a signal that the limit has been reached, so that customers are not sold goods on credit beyond the credit limit. Next important point is in relation to the selling price. Should check whether the selling prices are standard, okay, are at the standard prices. And if there are any exceptions, then such exceptions should be authorized. Check whether the prices, all right. because goods are always sold at a certain price, a standard price. If there is a customer who is to be sold to on a price that is not the standard price, that meaning that is an exception to the standard, then that exception has to be authorized. The fourth point or control is in relation to the existing customers. The existing customers should be allocated a credit limit, and it should be ascertained whether the limit is to be exceeded if the new order is accepted. Now, it's a common practice when selling goods on credit to customers. Each customer the prices may vary depending on the amount of goods that the customer buys from the company. So the system should be able to help allocate credit limits to customers, and it should ascertain whether the limit has been exceeded if a new order is placed or not. You understand? The existing customers should be allocated a credit limit. Should be allocated a credit limit, and when they make a new order, when they do what? When the customers make a new order, that order should be ascertained. All right, when making a new order, existing customer should be allocated a credit limit, and it should be ascertained whether the limit has been exceeded if the new order is accepted. So it's not just a question of having a credit limit. The system should be able to detect that the credit limit has been exceeded or not, as far as new customers are concerned. Then, candidates, we are discussing the controls that should be incorporated in the new system before the system issues an order confirmation to customers. When customers place an order, before that order is confirmed for processing, then what are the controls that should be put in place? The fourth control is in relation to any new customers. Any new customer should be referred to the credit control department. Any new customer should be referred to the credit control department before the order is accepted. Point number 6, all orders received should be recorded on pre-numbered sales order documents. All orders must be recorded on pre-numbered order documents. All orders must be what? Must be recorded in pre-numbered. Must be recorded in pre-numbered order documents, so that a check can be made that all orders have been dealt with to completion. So there has to be pre-ordered documents Every document has to have a unique number. That will help in carrying out completion checks. All orders must be authorized. All orders must be authorized before goods are dispatched. All orders must be authorized before goods are dispatched. The CC should be allowed for authorization. There has to be the process of authorization, and there has to be segregation of duties when it comes to carrying out the different functions in the sales system. All orders must be authorized. The one receiving the orders should not be the one authorizing the orders. All right? And we can also say that the sales order document should be used to produce a dispatch note for the goods outwards department. And no goods may be dispatched without a dispatch note. No goods may be dispatched without a dispatch note. I've given you more than enough points there. You have to give just 3. I've given you around, how many are these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the other point on dispatch, 8 points. Out of the 8 candidates who listed just 3 controls, you'd earn the 3 marks. 3 marks. I listed many points for the sake of revision. In another paper, maybe the one you will do, you will be required to give 8 controls. Here, candidates were to give 3 controls to earn the 3 marks. So you are now going to describe the controls that should be incorporated in the new system before it raises a dispatch note. Roman 2. Before it raises a dispatch note. Before it raises a dispatch note and authorizes dispatch of goods to the customer. You see the process from ordering, then after processing the order, we are moving to dispatch. Before the goods are dispatched and authorized to be sent to the customer, what are the controls that ought to be put in place? The first one is in relation to the date of dispatch. The date of dispatch of the goods should be checked to the date required by the customer. The date of dispatch of the goods. Date of dispatch of goods should be matched to the date required by the customer. If the customer has said, send to me the goods on 30th July, then the goods should not be dispatched on 25th July. Why? Because maybe on 25th of July, the customer may not have opened his or her business, and therefore you may dispatch or send the goods to the customer. You find the customer's shop is closed, and that would mean an extra charge on the part of the company. So it's important when dispatching to check the date of dispatch of goods, which should match the date that the customer requires the goods to be delivered. Date of dispatch of goods. Then the second control here is to check customer limit, check that customer limit has not been exceeded and that the sale will not result in limit being exceeded. Check limit has not been exceeded. Confirm that the limit before dispatch. Check that the limit has not been exceeded. Then another point is in relation to the terms. Ensure customer credit terms have not been exceeded. Ensure that the credit terms, ensure that the customer credit terms have not been exceeded. Another control is in relation to the details to be shown on dispatch note. Details to be shown on dispatch note. Remember, we are discussing the controls before. We are discussing controls to be incorporated in the new system before it raises a dispatch note and authorizes dispatch of goods to the customer. So the details to be shown on the dispatch notes, details like the stock quantities, the delivery address, among others, should agree with those on the order confirmation. Before dispatch, check the details within the dispatch note. Dispatch note. Details like the quantity, the dispatch note details like the quantities, the delivery address, among others, should agree with those on the order confirmation. Should agree with those on order confirmation. Should agree with those with the order confirmation. Then it's important to check if there are sufficient quantities in the store. All right? You need to check if there are sufficient quantities of goods in store. Check sufficient quantities of goods in store. Before dispatch, it's important to check that there are sufficient quantities of goods in store. So these are some of the controls. There are many, we can mention many, like there should be regular checks that should be made to ensure that all dispatches have been invoiced. We can also cite the pre-numbering of the dispatch notes. The dispatch notes should be pre-numbered and a register kept of them to enable them to be matched with sales invoices and customer orders. Pre-numbering of dispatch notes. Pre-numbered. Dispatch notes should be pre-numbered. So candidates were to give just 3 to earn 3 marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any 3 marks. Part B of the question reads, describe the controls which should be exercised over Roman 1. Changing customer details, including adding new customers, amending their details, and deleting customers. Controls B1. These are controls in relation to adding new customers, amending their details, and deleting customers. So let's have a control for new customers. Now, there should be supported the adding of new customers. I can say adding of new customers should be supported by written evidence. Adding new customers to this system should be supported by written evidence. There has to be written evidence. They should be supported by written evidence. For example, there should be written application from the potential customer for opening credit accounts. Before an account is added to the system, there has to be a control that the new customer must make a request in writing. Okay? Adding new customers should be supported by written evidence. There should be written application. There should be written application from potential customers. How about we are discussing new customers, then there is amending or changing. This is amending of details or changing details. These are details of the existing customers. Now, for changing details, a letterhead should be seen with evidence of change. A letterhead should what? Should be seen with evidence of change. A letterhead should be seen with evidence of change. A letterhead should be seen with evidence of change. Then how about this is amending, then deleting. What are the controls before deleting? Deleting. Deleting again should be supported by written evidence. There has to be written evidence when deleting customers from the system. There should be evidence of request to close the account. Deleting, just like when adding new customers, we say there should be written evidence, there should be written application from the potential customers that they would want to be included in the system. Likewise, when deleting the customer, there should be evidence of request. There should be evidence of request to close the account. There should be evidence of request to close the account. There should be evidence, and this evidence has to be written. There should be written evidence of request to close the account. That is Roman 1, 3 marks. Roman 1, 3 marks. This Roman 1, 3 marks. New customers, 1 mark. Amending or changing, 1 mark. Deleting, 1 mark. Total, 3 marks. Roman 2. Roman 2. What is the question? Changing customer credit limits. Changing customer credit limits. Changing customer credit limits. Changing customer credit limits. What are the controls in relation to changing of the customer credit limits? Now, changing or making changes to customer credit limits should be made by means of authorized input forms. Authorized input forms. There should be use of authorized input forms. The limits should not just be changed. No, there has to be authorized input forms that are used to change customer limit details. Changes to customer credit limits should be made by means of authorized input forms, which should be supported by evidence of checks on customer payment or exceeding existing limits. And changes to data customers. Changes to existing data. Changes to existing data should be authorized by the sales ledger manager. Sales ledger manager. You see, this is a senior officer of the company. It should not be made by clerks or junior officers in the department. Changes to customer credit limits should be made by the sales ledger manager. Changes to the existing data should be authorized by the sales ledger manager. Should sign that he is authorizing the change to the customer credit limits. So these are 2 points. This is a control. There is the forms and there is the manager. Those are 2 controls, 2 marks. 1, 2, 2 marks. We can cite other controls like further controls. There should be further controls, for example, authorization by the finance director. When you're increasing the credit limits, the finance manager should be also involved. Should also part of the authorization process. Then controls in relation to changing the selling prices of products. Roman 3. What controls should be put in place when changing selling prices of products? Selling prices of products. Now, the first control is that changes to the selling prices of products should be made via input forms authorized by the sales director. Authorized input forms. This is written evidence. Okay, written evidence. The selling prices of products should be made through input forms authorized by the sales director. Then the second control is that the sales staff should be issued with a complete listing of product prices and use the list to quote prices to the customers. The sales department, the sales staff should be issued with complete listing of product prices. Complete listing of product prices. The sales staff should know the prices. They should have a list. This is a written document. Remember, here we talked about there should be supported by written evidence. This is written evidence. The staff should have a complete listing of product prices, which they should use to quote prices to the customers. Because that will ensure that prices quoted will be the same as prices used for sales invoicing and also to prevent potential disputes. The last control, the sales manager should receive a complete computer listing. The sales manager should receive a complete computer listing of changes. These are changes that are made to the product prices. So the list should be complete, computer listing of changes. And these are changes that have been made, plus an exception report showing product prices for which no amendments were made. That will help to avoid or highlight, it will help to highlight any omissions that are made. So the third control here is that the sales manager should receive a complete computer listing of changes made plus an exception report showing products for which no amendments were made. So these are 3 controls, 1, 2, 3. 3 marks. I'm moving to part C, which says describe Roman 1, the credit control criteria that the automated accounting system should use to decide whether to prevent dispatches to customers. See Roman 1. What is the question? Describe the credit control criteria. Credit control, the credit control criteria that the automated sales accounting system should use to decide whether to prevent dispatches to customers. Do you understand the question? To decide whether to prevent dispatches to customers. This is a description of the credit. The examiner is asking here for the description of the credit control criteria that automated sales accounting system should use to decide whether to prevent dispatches to customers. The first point here will be in relation to whether credit limits have been exceeded. Whether credit limits have been exceeded or will be exceeded. Okay? Whether credit limits have been or will be exceeded. The second criteria is whether, for any reason, a stop has been placed on the account. Whether a stop has been placed on an account. Whether a stop has been placed on an account. Number 3, whether credit terms. These are limits. The third point is whether credit terms have been exceeded. Whether credit terms have been exceeded. So these are 3 credit control criteria. Part C, Roman 2, describe the manual procedures which should be exercised before the system allows goods to be dispatched to a company where the computer's criteria rejects dispatch of the goods. I take the question again. Roman 2. Describe the manual procedures which should be exercised before the system allows goods to be dispatched. Roman 2. Manual procedures. Manual procedures before the system allows goods to be dispatched. Before. Manual procedures before the system allows goods to be dispatched. Manual procedures. We are to describe the manual procedures which should be exercised before the system allows goods to be dispatched to a company where the computer's criteria rejects dispatch of goods. The question is, where the computer's criteria rejects dispatch of the goods, what are the manual procedures which should be exercised before the system allows goods to be dispatched? So there are times when the computer can reject dispatch of goods to a customer. So what procedures, what manual procedures should be exercised before the system allows goods to be dispatched to a company? Now, the manual procedures should involve deciding whether there are valid reasons for overriding the computer evaluation. Because the computer has been put in place to help the company in the process of dispatching goods to customers. But if the computer rejects dispatch of goods, that does not mean that the goods should not be dispatched to the customer. No, there has to be manual procedures. And I'm saying these manual procedures should involve deciding whether there are valid reasons the manual, these manual procedures should involve deciding whether, the manual procedures should involve deciding whether there are valid reasons. Whether there are valid reasons for overriding computer evaluation. The computer rejected the dispatch of goods. The question is, are there valid reasons why the goods should be dispatched, and in so doing, overriding the computer evaluation? And these reasons should be in writing, should be documented. And the reasons include they should include the goods returned for which a credit note needs to be issued. Goods returned for which credit note ought to be issued. All right? It includes goods returned for which a credit note needs to be issued. Then there are these goods under warranty. Items returned under warranty. Items returned under warranty. Items returned under warranty for which payment is being withheld. For which payment is being withheld. Items returned under warranty for which payment is being withheld. Number 3 is items in dispute. Items in dispute. Then lastly, number 4 is the payments received which have not yet been processed. Payment received which have not yet been processed. The payment received which have not yet been processed. So another procedure could include involving the sales manager. The sales manager should authorize any such dispatches. The sales manager should authorize such dispatches. These are dispatches that the computer rejected, but there are manual procedures which ought to be exercised so that the goods can be, the system can allow the goods to be dispatched to customers. So this would earn 3 marks. 3 marks. So these are 3 marks. Part C, Roman 1. Another 3 marks. Part C, Roman 1. It's 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 3 marks. So 3 plus 3 plus 3 is equal to 9. Plus 3, 12. Plus 3, 15. Plus 2, 17. Plus 3, 20. So that is suggested solution for question number 4, Advanced Auditing and Assurance, April 2022. In our next lesson, we are going to answer the last question. Thank you for attending our today's session. God bless you. Bye.